Hey guys, welcome to Strictly Ball Business, episode 14. Alec and Dalton here, talking about the latest and greatest happenings in the National Basketball League, or National Basketball Association, rather. We are not in Australia, believe it or not, but lots going on today. We decided we wanted to break down the Timberwolves preview heading into this next season. I'm a huge Timberwolves fan, so this is one that I was excited for until today's news dropped that we are unexpectedly firing Gersson Rosas, our GM, who has been our only decent GM in years. So we're going to unwrap that nugget as well. And we're going to talk a little bit about Buddy Hield. Still think he's a potential trade target. So we're going to talk about where he might land. Same thing with Marvin Bagley here on the Kings side. He's a guy who's been in trade rumors for months as well and could use a new start. He's even kind of alluded to it himself. So we'll talk about some trade packages for Marvin Bagley. We'll talk about the Pelicans' next move. Everyone knows they wanted a point guard this offseason, guy who could really help them out, like Kyle Lowry. Maybe they should have just kept Drew Holiday. I don't know. Just kidding. We'll figure out what their next step is and kind of play that out. And then we'll also talk a little bit about JJ Redick's retirement, player that we've had the opportunity to see as we've grown up. He had a nice 15-year career after being a star at Duke. He played for the Orlando Magic originally, so Dalton's favorite team. So we've got a lot to say. So starting out here, Gersson Rosas is fired. Today, they ripped the Band-Aid off on us there that we didn't even know a Band-Aid was on. And they were just like, he's gone. We're firing his ass. And, first reaction for me is what the fuck? Because he's been easily our best general manager, for as long as I've known. I was a fan back when we rehired David Kahn like 2 different times. And to finally have a guy who's making some moves, bringing in some, winning trades. He won that Denver Nuggets trade. It's tough to see him go, but it sounds like maybe there's some more going on in the background. What are your first thoughts on this, Dalton? When you saw the news break today?
Yeah, I mean, at first I was just blown away. I was like, it was crazy. But after reading it, I was like, there has to be another reason, mean, we'll see. But then I looked into it more. I was reading reports that it's like a common thing when there's a new owner that they'll just, doesn't matter how good the GM is, they'll just fire them. The Magic, for example, when John Hammond took over as GM was because Richard DeVoe died and he gave the ownership to Dan DeVoe, his son. And then shortly after Dan became owner, fired Jeff Weltman, and John Hammond's now the GM. I mean, it's not that Jeff Weltman was such an amazing GM, he actually was a pretty shitty GM in my mind, because the peak of his Magic was Vucevic, Alfred Payton, and Aaron Gordon.
Yeah,
but that's just a thing that happens. I've heard the Celtics brought up and how Danny Ainge came in. That was after new ownership. However, this was a horrible timing, especially in the middle of what I think it's almost consensus at this point that the Timberwolves are the best fit for Simmons to end up in. If you were Simmons and you want to have an offense that's already built around you, offense, defense, a team that's already in place for what his skill set is, Timberwolves is perfect place. So I think it's just a super bad timing. And I know they already hired the deputy, what's his name? Sachin Gupta. 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 Yeah. He's stepping up temporarily, and they're still trying to find someone as an interim. I think so when I first heard it, instantly I thought they were gonna trade everything for Ben Simmons. Now that he's gone, I feel like he was the one leveraging now that he wants to trade, we don't want to give up D'Lo and stuff. And I feel like the ownership just was no, just go out and get him. We don't care what we give up, just don't give up Cat and Edwards, which are already said to be untouchable, that they're not moving. So I feel like
Yeah.
that could have played into it a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in terms of making this move right now, like you said, it's such weird timing. You let Gersson Rosas do the draft, you let him do free agency, you let him trade for Patrick Beverly. In my mind, it's like either like they were just so disconnected on the Ben Simmons saga that like either maybe Rosas was willing to give up a ton for him and they pumped the brakes on him, or he wasn't willing to give up enough, and like you said, ownership just wants to get it done. I don't know. It's certainly a possibility that way. I think that'd be crazy to fire him over that. I would think things have been bottling up till now rather. And from the rumors I've been reading, it sounds like he is potentially an asshole. I know like Doug Wolfson hates him, but I hate Doug Wolfson, so who gives a shit about his opinion? But like, if he wasn't getting along with people well in the front office, that's another thing too. We had apparently blocked Gupta from taking a job outside of the organization, and now we promote him to take Rosa's spot. It's kind of almost maybe like a political game of chess, and Gupta won that. There's also the rumor that's starting out there that Gersson was having an affair with one of his assistants. And if that's the case, well, then it makes a lot of sense for why this is happening right now. And then we can take a step off of the, Wolves are the disaster front office ledge. Like if he legitimately had an affair with someone in the office, he deserved to be fired. So I don't know if we're ever going to see those rumors truthfully come out, or how transparent of a response we're going to get from the Timberwolves on this. But if that was true, then I 100% agree he had to go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we'll find out the real story 100% on what happened, but for sure they should be telling Cat. I mean, the fact
that part makes no sense.
So actually, I'm in part of agreement where Cat didn't need to know. Like, your star players don't need to know the front office switching around. However, in the position they're in with Cat, where he's already like on close to the line, if I were any sort of ownership, I would have been like, hey man, this is what's happening. Like, we don't have to tell you. Like, the front office, they don't have to tell their best player about that, but we are, because we want you to stay. And it sounds like he had a pretty decent relationship with Gersson. I mean, Gersson was in the gym this morning, and it's less than a week from training camp. Like, he was pretty close with Cat, and a lot of his moves were directly in support of building around Cat.
Well, he obviously loved the D'Angelo Russell trade, bringing his buddy who's a solid shooter next to him. And, he's probably liked some of these other moves as well. And before Rosas was in here, obviously there was dysfunction for other reasons with Tom Thibodeau, Ryan Saunders as our coach for a little bit, even under Rosas, but the Rick Adelman days before Tom Thibodeau and whoever the hell our GM was at that point. But point being, actually, it was Scott Layden and Tom Thibodeau, they were doing a lot of it for a little bit. But point being, this is going to be Cat's 7th year with us. We don't want this to be another Kevin Garnett situation where he leaves after a decade and goes win a championship with a big market. And that's where this is going now. And like, if something happened that like you're letting Gersson Rosas go for a reason, be transparent with Towns. He's an adult, why not let him know? That almost like the fact that he didn't know about it makes me almost think like the rumors of Gersson having an affair are bullshit, and that this was just them making their change. And they're like, well, we don't need to let the players know about it.
Yeah, that's why I'm leaning more towards not as much of a harsh rumor as that, just more like it's just restructuring, new ownership. Yeah. I mean,
I hope that's not it. I hope it's not the restructuring and new ownership. I honestly do hope Gersson cheated on his wife, because otherwise it's just more dysfunction for the Wolves and proves we're the trashiest and worst organization in the NBA. Like, if we got rid of him because he did something horrible, great, we're a good organization. If we did it because we're just incompetent And all of a sudden we need to get our own guy in there. That's bullshit. It's more Timberwolves horse shit, and I hate it.
Yep. Yep. But I think this is a good stepping off point. We can step into the personnel they have, all that work that Gersson has worked over the last 2 years to put together, and going into this season as they are.
Yeah, we have good young players on this team. Personnel wise, they are under Chris Finch, and he just started, with less than 30 games last year. I don't know how many he ended up coaching, but this is going to be his first full season as a Timberwolves head coach. And he's got Karl-Anthony Towns, he's got Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell, and he's got a couple of other young guys around him. First, talking about Cat, I'm expecting a huge season out of him this year after injuries the last couple of seasons. And, he's sort of fallen off in terms of recognition around the league. He used to be in this same pillar of unicorn bigs with like Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid. But now, those guys have passed him. And there's even some sports critics out there, morons, that think like Bam Adebayo or someone else is even better than Cat.
Mhm.
He needs to have a big season to prove, that's who he is. He's the guy who can be a generational shooting big, and he's get better at defense to prove that he can be just a great big in general. And so I'm excited to see his coming out party this year. I think he's going to have a big chip on his shoulder. Last year was a tough year for him with all of the loss he had due to COVID. And I'm hoping this year, maybe the mind's a little clearer.
Yeah. I mean, not just generational. People are already talking about that Cat's the best shooting center we've ever had in the NBA. And I'm 100% he'll finish as the best shooting center in the NBA ever in the NBA by the end of his career. I mean, he really just has to beat out Brook Lopez. I think he's the one who has the 3-point record, but he's already great in that perspective. It'd be nice to see him get some awards. He has to step up. That's a huge part. I think it's more or less on everyone around him. I mean, they need to improve in a lot of ways. They only had a 109 offensive rating. Granted, last season was huge for all of them. Like, everyone missed time except for Anthony Edwards, who played 72 games. But everyone missed time. Jaden was out a few games. Obviously, Cat was out half the season. D'Lo was out half the season. Malik was in jail.
And he had an injury too.
And he had an injury when he came back.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice to see them all on the floor. I do really like the trades they made. Pat Bev, awesome. Like I think he's great to build. They have to change the defensive culture. So kind of getting into like what Monty Williams did with Ayton and Booker. Neither one are that great of defensive players, especially Booker. I mean, there was a point where he was one of the worst defensive players people just thought of because he scored 72 and lost the game. Granted, that game wasn't much on him. He scored 72 points, but you can certainly build a good defense, make it to the finals on not the best defensive stars. And I think building those defensive pieces, I think a lot of it will be seeing the progression of Jaden McDaniels. As he came in, they saw the potential of defense, but it was more like shot creating and shooting was the big reason why you drafted him. And he turned into he just bought in on the defensive end. He's like, somebody's got to play defense on this team. And he showed up pretty well. And Nas can play good defense. Pat Bev is awesome. And obviously Okogie's a great defender to have on the team. But I do really like the move. I like the idea of the move for Taurean Prince. We'll see. I mean, they really needed size. They only had two big men last season, and that was Nas and Cat, and one was always injured. So it's not like in a small ball lineup, like size isn't as important anymore. However, they're not a physical team. And they run 5-out offense. They have very few cutters inside. So that physical aspect is taken out. So they just get bullied. And I mean, 5-out is made because they're a 3-point shooting team. I mean, they're 12th in 3-pointers made, which means they obviously are pretty good 3-point shooters, but 25th in 3-point percentage, which means most of their shots are coming from 3. So it means they have a good volume. They just need to lock in. And I think they need a little better of a defense built around them. I think Taurean Prince is fine enough until they figure out who's going to be at the 4. We'll see. I mean, he's not defense. He's just there to shoot the ball, help that spacing that the Timberwolves love so much. I mean, eventually it'll work. They just need to build a defense within that system.
Yeah, Taurean Prince is a fine player. He's not going to start for us. I wouldn't expect that. I believe Jared Vanderbilt is going to be the starting 4, and Jaden McDaniels might even start at the 3. Taurean Prince is a good shooter. I think coming off the bench, that's going to be valuable, especially next to guys like Leandro Balmero and Patrick Beverly, and as well as some other young guys who, don't have as much experience, but obviously having a couple of veterans like Beverly and Prince is going to help us out a lot. So I think there's a lot to be excited in terms of the shooting. Like you said, they've been taking the shots. That's the identity that they want to be as a 3-point shooting team that gets out in transition. And with Rosas gone, I hope that they still continue that vision. I think with the personnel we have, you kind of have to. But I still see that Beverly contract and that Prince contract as more tradable assets, less than guys that they see being focal parts of the rotation, especially that with Prince. But I love the Patrick Beverly trade, getting rid of both Juancho Hernan-Gomez and Jarrett Culver, guys who weren't going to get minutes this year. At least I hope they weren't. For a guy that, bring in a guy who is going to give you solid defensive minutes and be able to play in crunch time. Even that's a huge win in my book for sure.
Yeah, I really like that. And I mean, I imagine the starting 5 is going to be like D'Lo, Edwards, McDaniels, Vanderbilt, or Prince with Cat, and then their 6th man is Beasley. I'd like to see Beasley as a 6th man. I think it'll suit him better. I don't like the fit with D'Lo, Beasley, and Edwards. It's just not enough defense. At least Edwards can hold up better against 2s rather than put him against 3s. And having Jaden at the 3 is just adds that versatility. That's nice for perimeter defense.
Yeah. That's why I think Vanderbilt and McDaniels in the starting lineup makes sense, because defensively we need their help. Like Malik at the 2 and Edwards at the 3. I kind of get that from an offensive perspective, especially if the rumors are true that Edwards grew 2 inches this year. But at the same time, I still would want Edwards to be a little bit bigger defensively and to prove that he can handle 3s defensively. We already know that Jaden, he can. Just we don't know from like a full game scale of how that's going to look. Yeah. But I've got more confidence in Jaden defensively than really anyone else that we put at the 3 besides maybe Okogie.
Yeah, for sure. Also, it'd be nice to see them make a trade for someone. I like Vanderbilt. I think he's a great defensive tool to have on this roster. However, I think they need more at the 4 position. Obviously, I think Miles Turner would be great at the 4 as center, whichever they want to play him next to. Simmons obviously would be a perfect fit. I mean, there's still like Harrell out there. I mean, he's probably a tradable contract. He's definitely a tradable contract with Taurean Prince and Pat Bev on the roster, and I think he would fit well. He's not the lockdown defense we need, but he still has that effort, that rim running, and he won't hurt the spacing, being that they have nothing but space on this team, but we'll like to see. But actually,
I like Trez a lot. I mean, when he was a free agent last season, I was really hoping that we'd go after him, but wasn't too surprised that he just wanted to go to a big market and compete. So
yeah, for sure. But I do have a trade and it's Miles Turner for Taurean Prince, Okogie, and McDaniels. That immediately, as a fan of the Timberwolves, I feel like we're giving up too much, especially in McDaniels. However, it's definitely a win now move. Maybe we can get a second in there, a second or 2 in there back from the Pacers. Pacers getting rid of Turner, making room for Brissett, and they get back a nice perimeter defender, Taurean Prince, who's just contract filler at this point, and they get a nice young power forward or wing to put next to Sabonis. Also, they could commit to putting Sabonis at the center, which I know they like to play him at, and McDaniels wouldn't be the worst 4 to put next to him. I think he would fit a lot better, more consistent shot than Turner. Not as good as paint defensive, but I think that's a win now move. I think I would if I saw that move, I would settle for it. I'd be like, okay, they're doing what they can around Cat while we still have him, and I think that'd be worth it.
I'd be happy with that move if it came with a Miles Turner extension. I would prefer to trade Malik Beasley for that package if given the chance,
Really?
rather than Jaden McDaniels being the focal point. But if it came down to it, I would do it. I mean, I think that we need to get a starting caliber four here or another big next to Cat. I like Vanderbilt. He's not a starting caliber four. Any Timberwolves fan that tells you that is just sucking their own T-Wolf cock. All right. It's not realistic. Like he does some good things, but he can't shoot for shit.
Right. No,
especially
yeah,
from the free throw line.
And I think my last thing is if they maneuver a Simmons trade where they keep D'Lo, Edwards, and Cat, instant contender. I know they still need a few more moves around them, but instant contender.
Instant playoff contender, instant championship contender.
Instant championship contender. Whoa! Give them a year. Give them a year. Give them a year. Those four. I mean, there's so four. Remember, Cat at one point is an MVP caliber player. Edwards has already emerged. All the stats saying offensive rating. He had the second best offensive rating last season. He could give him another this year. I don't think we'll see how he does. Give him a third year. I think he's definitely a scoring option on a team. And if he's the third or second scoring option, especially with Simmons has that's a way better cast, especially with D'Lo. I think that's a dangerous team that's really hard to beat. And they just need defensive players and shoot, and maybe a sprinkle a couple of shooters in there. And I think that's a contending team. I think that's a team you can talk about that can make it far in the playoffs.
On paper, they would be fantastic. I mean, like it would bringing in Simmons would help close up a lot of our weaknesses on the defensive end. My only thing I'd say would keep them from getting to that championship contender level status is that they're the Timberwolves. I mean, we just saw today that they fired Gersson Rosas out of nowhere, trading for Ben Simmons, who is the, poster child of drama in the NBA right now. It would probably be a disaster around the corner waiting for us, I would think. But what else do we got to lose? I mean, we've made the playoffs one time in the last 17 years. So
yeah. Well, D'Lo's really good friends with Ben Simmons. They played either I think AAU together. So they're really good friends. I think that would work out.
I mean, them being friends doesn't mean that drama won't come though,
Right.
Like I'm just saying, like, you never know with this fucking team. Like something can always come up. They always surprise you. And that's just the way it is. Actually, the Wolves.
Last thing with the Timberwolves, I forgot I put in a 3-team trade here to get for the Timberwolves acquiring Ben Simmons. So let me know what you think of this one. So Timberwolves acquiring Ben Simmons alone, just him. Philadelphia Sixers get Malik Beasley, Pat Beverly, and Colin Sexton, and the Cavaliers get Okogie, McDaniels, and a second from the Timberwolves.
I'd say Cleveland probably needs a first round or two, maybe, but getting McDaniels out of Colin Sexton is good for them, but I think they could get a lot more than that.
Really? Yeah, it's the Cavs side that's a little weaker. Maybe the Wolves put in a first. I mean, if I were the Wolves, I would still do that. I mean, they're giving up 4 players in this deal. All of them are rotational players for them for just Ben Simmons. However, you still have a Jared Vanderbilt. You still have the main 3. I think that's the big. If you can get Ben Simmons without trading your big 3, I think that's awesome. That's crazy. And I think this could do it. Maybe, toss in another first to Cleveland. I think that could move the needle. I think the 76ers would look at this package, Pat Bev, Beasley, and Sexton, and be like, this is probably the best we're going to get.
I mean, it would be great for the Sixers if they got, a couple of shooters out of it and a guy who can be their immediate starting point guard at a star quality level. I don't see them getting anything better than that. Personally, with like them possibly trading with Sacramento, for example, they said they needed Fox or Halliburton hands down, which I understand. You're not going to get Fox, but Halliburton, to be honest, I feel like the Kings should be willing to trade him for Ben Simmons, but apparently they're not. And so it just kind of leads you to think like, okay, what are people willing to trade for him? Are the Timberwolves the only one willing to trade like any solid players? Well, if that's the case, we don't need to give up D'Lo.
No.
Do we need to give up both Malik and Jaden? Maybe. But I mean, we'll see. I mean, Maury's been asking for a lot. Ben Simmons is not reporting to camp. He's made that very clear. We even got the Woj bomb yesterday confirming it. So this shit's gonna get really messy.
Yeah, we'll see.
But Timberwolves heading into next season, we're expecting a play-in type of tournament type of team, maybe a little higher in the playoffs if they can get some stability going and they win some games. But as every year with the Timberwolves, it's a lot of optimism before the batshit crazy shit starts coming in. So we'll see how it goes. I've got a half season worth of games, so I'll be at Target Center a lot. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, having that package and finding out today about the Rosas news, I hit up my rep and I said, hey, man, what's going on over there?
I gotta know.
It was like, are you serious right now? But anyways, we'll get on to our next topic here. Move on from the Timberwolves. Buddy Hield, potential trade target. The Kings, they drafted Davion Mitchell this year. They have Tyrese Halliburton. They have De'Aaron Fox. They're really strong at guard. They have a bust at Marvin Bagley at the 4. Ideally, they need to get better at the 4 or 5. Is there someone they can trade? Or is there a team they can trade with Buddy Hield to get a big man back potentially?
Oh, yeah. So I got to trade with both of them in it, and then I got to trade for both of them separately. So obviously Hield no longer fits in the timeline, especially with Halliburton and Mitchell, like you just said. He's a decent on-ball defender. I mean, he's not a good defender by any means. Gives up way too easy. He's not a smart defender. He gives into too many pump fakes, commits way too soon on all of them. But you get instant shooting. I mean, he takes 10 3-pointers a game at 39%. But he's also not the best playmaker, so he can't be a starting point guard for you. And Bagley hasn't improved in the roster over 3 years. Very athletic scorer, but he's not the best shooter. But he's a willing scorer. Or no, he's not the best shooter or a willing shooter, but he is a willing scorer. He just doesn't want to shoot it. He's not a smart defender either, but it's his motor and effort that keep him in the lineup today. He wants to be better. I just don't think that's going to be in Sacramento. However, so I have one. This one's a little spicy. It's Sacramento Kings get Kristaps Porzingis and the Mavericks get Buddy Hield and Marvin Bagley. And maybe 2 seconds, I think, is what I had.
It is spicy.
That's certainly building off. That's the Kings in a desperate move. Be like, hey, give us a star. Like we need a center. We need a power forward. Like we'll take them. 50 cents on the dollar. And that's the Mavs being like, no one wants Kristaps. We're gonna get someone that can produce right now and somebody that could produce later on.
Yeah, I like the trade for both teams. Porzingis on the Kings would be interesting. I mean, obviously they could use a lot of shooting at the 4 or 5, so bringing in Porzingis would help them a lot in that regard. And for the Mavs, I mean, they need more shooting at their guard positions. They need guys who can get out in transition and keep things a little faster. I don't know if they want the reclamation project of Marvin Bagley, but maybe they do. I mean, they could use another big. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, they always have Kleber to fall back on. I mean, you produce or you don't. Something like one of those things. But all right, so here's one. Actually, I think this one fits into. I'll use that one as a transition. I'll go into this next one first. Anyway, so okay. Sacramento Kings get Miles Turner and the Pacers give up Marvin Bagley and Tristan Thompson to the Pacers. Straight up.
That's terrible. I mean, you said a Miles Turner trade earlier that was way better than that.
Yeah.
The Wolves got to give up Jaden McDaniels for Miles Turner, but the Kings just have to give up Tristan Thompson.
No, well, and Marvin Bagley. However, Jaden McDaniels still has a long way to come, and at least Marvin Bagley has come out and scored 14 points per game. He's had multiple 20-some points per game. I'm not saying this is the best trade. However, I just don't.
You're out here telling me that Marvin Bagley has higher trade value than Jaden McDaniels.
Yeah,
you're just flat out wrong on that, bro.
All right. but at least, I mean, I just don't know how the Pacers are valuing Miles Turner. I mean, we've heard there's been trade rumors and they just haven't accepted any of them. And honestly, he's not a franchise player. I think he's a really nice starter on any team that'll fit, like Warriors. And I think he will fit the Kings decently well, especially if they still have Rashad Holmes. They can play either one at the 4. He can spread the floor. He's not the best 3-point shooter, Miles Turner, but I think it's a possibility.
I mean, basically all he shoots these days are corner threes.
Which isn't the worst thing. At least he spreads the great space.
So I hope he's decent at shooting, but
it's like 33%, something like that.
Yeah, which is good. Or I mean, it's fine for a big man,
center,
I guess.
whatever.
I mean, I prefer him to not be taking only corner threes, but I mean, that's the big reason why his rebound numbers aren't what you'd think they'd be, is because he hangs out on the perimeter a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I could see that as a possibility, him maybe going to the Kings. I think they'd have to give up some picks. I don't really have any clue what Indiana's doing. I mean, they brought in Rick Carlisle, which was obviously a great hire, kind of unexpected. But they had said they were for sure, well, rumors at least said for sure they were going to trade Miles Turner this offseason. He's still there. Sounds like he's going to be there at the beginning of the season. They were able to bring in Karis LeVert by dumping off Oladipo. That was awesome last year. And I'm expecting a big season out of Karis this year. But I don't know. Is it just going to be another middle of the pack year for Indiana? Like they just love barely making the playoffs or barely missing it. I don't really get it.
Yeah, they're stuck in that limbo. Fortunately, they have the assets to mix it up. However, I mean, both teams are stuck in this limbo where either one, they're close to a rebuild, but they're not good enough to anything to accomplish anything in the postseason. I think one of them is going to have to give. I think eventually the better player is going to get moved to the other team. My last one, this one I like a lot, and it goes into our next topic pretty well. So the Sacramento Kings get Satoransky, Jackson Hayes, and Kyra Lewis Jr., and the Pelicans get Buddy Hield. No trade, no picks. It's just the Kings get a center that they can build around. They get another guard that they can see what's going to happen. Buddy Hield goes to a team that can really use his shooting and offense. So I think it's good for both teams.
Yeah, I like that fit. It would be funny to see Buddy go back to New Orleans after they drafted him. But I definitely think that makes sense. The Pelicans, they need to get more shooters alongside Zion. And if you can get a guy who shoots 39% on high volume, that would be amazing for them.
Yeah. I mean, he's always, when you're watching those games, like they always have one defender. They don't leak off of Buddy. He's never open. He takes a lot of contested threes and he shoots 39%. They have that, the on-ball defender, but they always have a leak, someone close in who can also close out. He never shoots it. He never goes one more to the next person. But I mean, he can find cutters, but I think he would fit a lot better. I think he's a perfect fit next to Zion, very complimentary to Brandon Ingram. But if that move happened, I think they would have to double down on defense at point guard and center. Because right now they really don't have the best defenders in there besides Zion. Zion's a great defender. I think he's going to turn into something awesome. But Brandon Ingram can be a really nice defender. It's just he needs the right system, but he can't be your primary defender. He can't be the guy that's going to go out and defend your best guy. I mean, they have Josh Hart. He helps a lot, and he could play like 2 through 4. So I think that's really nice. But
yeah, they need guys to buy in over there with their new head coach, Willie Green. I mean, they just did 1 season of Stan Van Gundy. Before that, they had 2 seasons of Alvin Gentry. Mm-hmm. They need to hopefully have this head coach work out, and people need to buy into him. Brandon Ingram did not buy in with Stan Van Gundy and was not willing to play defense there. Is he going to be willing to do it with Willie Green? We'll see.
Yeah, it's been said that Stan's not the best player coach. He rubs people the wrong way. A lot in the Pistons with
really
Tobias.
Not surprising at all.
Yeah. Tobias Drummond. He wasn't the best with them, and Reggie Jackson, and
obviously the Dwight Howard stuff back with the Magic.
Yeah, he was a huge reason why Dwight.
Remember that one time when he, the trade request stuff was going on, and they're interviewing Stan Van Gundy, and Dwight Howard comes up and puts his arm around Stan, and they're like
such a cringeworthy moment.
It was so awkward. Just, oh yeah, things are good, right, Stan? Yeah, I think things are good. Yeah, that's what I was just telling them. Meanwhile, what he was just telling them was, well, I hope we have Dwight on our team, whatever. I know we requested a trade. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, what a weird moment. But Willie Green, I actually really like him. I mean, he was assistant for Monty for 2 years, and I think if he even gets close to Monty, just like we were talking about earlier, like Monty is able to build a defense around not the best defenders. I mean, he has Jay Crowder, Chris Paul, and Mikal Bridges. All three of those are really nice. However, they just need to bring in. I mean, I feel like the Pelicans have all the tools. They just got to find someone to put them all together and put them in the right spot. And I think Willie Green will help that, especially a younger coach. I think that'll fit a lot better with them. It'd be nice to them. I mean, they need one more star. I think that's it. They just need another star in there. I think Zion could be your number one. I think Brent Ingram can be an okay 2, but an awesome 3, scoring option wise. And I think Zion, I think Zion's going to be better suited to be the second scoring option. Usually the first scoring option has to be someone who can have the ball primarily and make these plays. And Zion shouldn't be the best playmaker because he's so unstoppable off ball. So I think a point guard would be preferable. Or, I mean, also if Brandon Ingram can handle it all, then a really nice center would be awesome. Like guards. Yeah. So if Damian Lillard came available, even if whatever happens, a lot of what I think this team could benefit from is if Portland they fall apart this season. They're like, all right, take our pieces. I think CJ would be a perfect fit. Obviously, Bradley Beal would be a good fit. If Zach LaVine ever wanted to get out, I think this is an awesome landing spot for him. I think they need a few more role players like Jay Crowder. He would be awesome. Troy Brown Jr. is actually a really feasible pick. He's a pretty decent defensive player. Probably won't see as many minutes with the Bulls this season. I mean, he's a 3-and-D player. He's like a off-brand 3-and-D, more D than 3, kind of like Josh Richardson without all the money. Covington would be perfect. Even MCW, Michael Carter Williams, just his defense, come in there, maybe hit some shots, some decent playmaking. I think he would be an awesome fit. And Terrence Ross just for some extra offense. Like those are some key guys I think would help out this team a lot.
Yeah, you make a good point with like those lesser name players where, yes, they were going star hunting this offseason. They tried getting Kyle Lowry and it didn't work out. And we still feel they need a star, but that star's not always going to be there. And you have to make moves to still be competitive now. And you never know if someone can improve and, blossom into something better, like say a Jeremy Grant, where he was a guy I viewed as just like a role player. Now he's a guy who's a solid starter in the league. And they've got a lot of those guys like Josh Hart and Satoransky already that do some solid things, but not tons of, star qualities within them. And I think they need some more guys like that before they get that top star. But, maybe in a couple of years, I don't think they're going to get that star this year. I think realistically, no one's requesting out this season. Like, how often do you see a big name player request a trade during the season?
Yeah, and how often do they go to a small market? But
it's just not gonna happen.
I was looking at it and I was thinking about it today, and I was like, if you can put together a trade that gives away Brandon Ingram for Dame, I mean, obviously you do it.
Yeah.
However, it keeps you're in the same situation where they just don't have especially what you're going to give up for Dame. I mean, Dame and Zion, don't get me wrong, awesome, great duo, but you're going to need a lot more. It's not just that trade's not going to put you over. You're going to need to make a lot more trades, sign a lot more free agents. Granted, it'll be easier to find. I mean, Dame's never played with somebody like Zion and vice versa. So I think that'll help out a lot. I mean,
if you have Dame and Zion, and people want to come play with them, and I think it makes it a lot easier knowing how you have to draft, having those guys just sharpied into your lineup. So I think that would be great. If you have to give up Brandon Ingram, make it happen, I think it's totally worth it. And obviously with that, you probably wouldn't have to include picks, hopefully, if you're including Brandon Ingram, and they have tons of picks, so they have a good chance to trade those away for other guys that they can bring into their starting lineup to help out Dame and Zion as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But lastly, with the Pelicans, I actually do have it's a possible trade. Could definitely become available. Is the New Orleans Pelicans get Malcolm Brogdon and the Pacers. Pacers get Sato, Nico Alexander Walker, Jackson Hayes, and a first round pick.
Sure. I like that. I mean, obviously, Indiana's willing to trade Malcolm Brogdon, as we know from the Ben Simmons rumor. Are they only willing to trade him for like a star level player, though? That's kind of the other question. Because with Indiana, they signed Malcolm Brogdon. How often do they get free agents wanting to come there? Obviously, they just had to pay him the most, and they might have to do that again for someone else. But why get rid of a solid player if you're not going to get like a star back?
Right. I mean, I get that. But maybe, I mean, like I said, the Pacers are going to have to make a decision sooner or later. I mean, it's hard. And at least this way they get a little more young talent. I think Nico Alexander Walker, he really showed a lot of potential at the end of last season. I think he could be something more. I don't know, as good as Brogdon, but then you also get a Jackson Hayes, maybe send Turner off to the Timberwolves, send him off to the Kings. You could need to make some changes. You get a first round pick. I don't know. I mean, Malcolm Brogdon has 2 years left on his deal. We'll see. I think that is probably more feasible than anything. And I think the Pelicans would love that. You get defense and that playmaking at the one that you missed out with Lonzo. I think that makes up for that.
No, yeah, it would be very solid for them. Someone who can take control of the offense late in the games and get the ball to Zion. I think that's going to be very important for them. Obviously, their big guard addition this year was Devontae Graham. I don't think that's going to move the needle enough for them.
Yeah, I think Devontae Graham would be a great piece if they already had some sort of system in place. Yeah. But it's going to be hard to fit him in that system, him into what they're already doing with Zion. I mean, granted, he's a really nice shooter, so he could fit in seamlessly. But he's a decently on ball player. Actually, he's not a decently on ball player, but we'll see. We'll see.
Well, I think we're both in agreement that the Pelicans' next move is to get guys who can ball handle, shoot, take over the game late when they need to, and take pressure off of Zion. Those are kind of the big things that you're looking for here, and we'll see if that player becomes available. Talking about players who are no longer available, former New Orleans Pelican himself, JJ Redick, announced his retirement the other day, and 15-year career. Was a really exciting player to watch. Obviously a great shooter, great teammate, really entertaining guy, has a fun podcast. Did he ever win a championship?
No, went to the finals, 2009. Yeah, I mean, he retired number 4 jersey by Duke, 2 ACC championships, drafted 11th overall by the Magic, played there for 7.5 years, played for the Bucks half a year, 4 years in Lob City. That was probably what I actually remember him most. I didn't watch the basketball as much back in the Dwight Howard era. 2 years in Philly. That was I think was most exciting. He had a bigger role. He was just the catch and shoot guy. There were all these flare screens. He was running around constantly. Very Steph Curry-esque. Played 1.5 years with the Pels. Finished his career with the Mavs. Made the finals 2009 with Dwight. Some good playoffs runs with the Clips and 76ers. I think, and retired at 37 years old. Yeah, I think he's had a really nice career. He's been a larger role player as it goes. I think he's had a great career. I look back at it, and I hope he's proud of it. I know he is, actually. I watched his podcast. He said majorly because he was injured last year, and he just didn't want to come into the season and play worse. Like, he thought this is a decent stepping off point. This is a good end cap. He's still injured, still has to get the surgery, and he just didn't think he would find any time at 37 years old. So missed his kids a lot. So I'm glad he gets to go home and go on his podcast. I mean, his podcast, the main reason, one of the huge reasons how we're doing ours. Like, this is why I wanted to do it, because I watched his. So he's better.
Yeah, he's great personality to have in NBA media. And now that he's retired and he can focus on that, I think his show's only going to get better.
281,000 followers. It's and it's really cool. If you just want to listen to two actual NBA players just talk, it's awesome. Yeah, like they just talk. It's very like low key, casual, and it's just super awesome perspective to listen to.
Well,
It's
who's he
just
talk with? Matt Barnes or someone
oh
else?
no, he has like KD, Drew
Oh, you're talking
Holiday.
about his guests.
Yeah, he
Okay.
is.
Yeah, because I thought he was just with one of his buddies
Oh yeah,
otherwise.
he is with one of his buddies, and
Yeah.
but just listening, like my favorite was him and Chris Paul. They just talked at basketball. Like they
Yep.
talked being in Lob City and just different plays. It was super cool just listening to
Yeah.
casual stuff.
That's the stuff I love for sure. Something new that the NFL had brought that I hope the NBA does is the Manning cast on Monday Night Football. I don't know if you've seen that at all, but Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, a couple of former quarterbacks, they bring on guests that are currently playing in the league, and then they'll talk with them during the game. And you get some really good insight that way. And so it's almost kind of like a podcast while the game's going on too. I kind of hope the NBA does something like that someday where they, maybe you've got like maybe Draymond when he retires, and maybe you got Draymond, JJ Redick, and they're like doing the show, whatever, for TNT. And then they bring on like, Anthony Edwards to do an interview during a different game. It's just, that's the best type of content. These guys are ballers. But they're people too. And it's cool hearing them when they're off the court.
No, yeah. Yeah, I agree. That would be awesome, actually. Yeah, I would watch that show. But
Yeah. No
JJ
doubt.
Redick retires 15. He was retired as the 15th on the 3-point made list at 1,953. So
that's awesome. It's all time right there. He's an all timer just with that right there.
All time shooter. Yep.
That's cool. Well, we had a lot of fun topics today, going from the Timberwolves to the Pelicans and the Kings in between. I'm excited for this season coming up, even if things are looking a little weird right now as a Timberwolves fan. Let's just get there. When's opening night?
Yeah,
get there. Damn.
I mean, my Magic don't play till like I think they're the third game in, second or third game. But yeah, I'll be watching the Timberwolves. I'll be watching all of them now. I got League Pass. I'll be on.
Oh, you got League. There we go. Well, you heard it here first, guys. Well, when we are back next week for Strictly Ball Business episode 15, we'll have hopefully some more news to break down. But stay tuned. So we'll be signing off here. Strictly Ball Business episode 14. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all other major podcast channel. Give us a subscribe. We're a couple of dudes from Minnesota just trying to have a good time and chat about some basketball. So